It's like going through a similar process with Lou.
Yeah.
We are, let me make sure, but I believe. All right, it appears that we're good on. We are good on Zoom and we are good on YouTube. So I believe we can start the meeting.
Okay, we'll call the meeting to order at 7:02. First, we'd like to welcome new commission member Alphen to our group here. Chris, did you have a few words you'd like to say?
Yes, of course, as y'all know, Mr. McLaughlin, Representative Walker's Creek, resigned at the December meeting. And with that being said, Mr. Timmy Alphen from Goshen was kind enough to fill his shoes. He's no stranger to the Planning Commission. He served on the Planning Commission from, and these are guesstimate dates, but I think it's about February of 04 till about mid 2008. So he certainly knows his way around the commission meeting room, and we welcome and look forward to working with him.
Great, thank you. I will have a roll call. Commission member Jimenez here, Commission member Hines, Commission member Lucas, Commission member Whitmore, absent, and Commission member Alphen. Okay, we're going to read some important notices. Please take notice that the January 12th, 2022 Planning Commission meeting will be held by electronic means pursuant to the continuity of government ordinance effective on October 6, 2021, due to the threats posed by the COVID-19 pandemic to the health, safety, and welfare of the public. While some commission members may participate remotely, staff will be present presenting as normal in the Board of Supervisors meeting room at 150 South Main Street, Lexington 24450. In addition to citizens attending the meeting in person, citizens have several options to view or participate in the Zoom meeting webinar as described below. We will do our best to take citizens' comments remotely. There are two options for citizens to offer comment. One, to join the Rockbridge County Planning Commission Zoom webinar. The link is available on the county website to copy into the address line on your browser. To join by telephone, you may dial in to one of the numbers listed on the county website. Webinar ID and password are there for your convenience. Citizens wishing to simply view the meeting live or after the fact can do so on the Rockbridge County Planning Commission YouTube channel, also available on the county website. If you wish to make a citizen comment as a Zoom meeting participant, you will use the raise your hand feature. You can press the raise hand button on the bottom of your Zoom window or press *9 if you're calling in by telephone. At this time, we will proceed with the meeting. Do we have any citizen comments this evening? Anyone physically here?
One is physically here. Let me check the raised hands. If you're a citizen online and you would like to do a citizen comment, now is the time to raise your hand, please. Not seeing any raised hands, I will turn it over back to the chair.
Okay, do we have any written comments, Chris?
Not for citizen comments, no ma'am.
Okay, so we will proceed to agenda item 3, which is the election of officers. Since Mr. McLaughlin has resigned, we have to set a chair, a vice chair, and a secretary. So we need a motion to set the officers.
That is correct. At the beginning of at the first meeting of the year, we do two things. One, election of officers and approval of the meeting schedule, the next agenda. The current slate of officers was Lee McLaughlin was the chair, Melissa Hennis was the vice chair, and I serve as the secretary. With that being said, Ms. Hennis is correct. We need a motion. It can be done all at one time or individual by position.
Okay. Do we have somebody who wants to make that motion?
We can make a motion for Ms. Hennis to be chair. Hines.
Would you like to be vice chair?
I'll be vice chair.
Okay. And Chris for
Layton is
secretary.
secretary.
Okay. So we have a motion for Melissa Hennis to be president, Kimberly Hines to be chairman, vice chair, and then secretary for Chris.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that motion passes. Now we're looking at the meeting dates that are set. I'm assuming these are all the second Wednesday of each month.
They are, and I do not believe there were any conflicts with the second Wednesday of the month. So the schedule is, of course, second Wednesday of the month at 7 PM. And the schedule that is in your package reflects that accordingly.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve the planning commission meeting schedule?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay, we have a motion.
Second.
Okay, and Commissioner Alphen is the second. All in favor?
Uh,
The motion passes. Okay, so now we are looking for approval of the December 8th, 2021 meeting minutes. Everybody had a chance to review the minutes?
I did. I did not see anything, any discrepancies. Everything was very well written, very detailed. So I make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
We have a motion. And a second from Mr. Lucas. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. So we are ready for the board report. Staff is going to give us a report from the Board of Supervisors and the TCO.
Yes, ma'am. So at their December 13th, 2021 meeting, the Board of Supervisors approved the Holland application for a primitive campground as recommended by the Planning Commission. They approved the Lucky application for short-term rental in a residential zoning district. That'd be a bed and breakfast homestay. And they approved all three Bender applications. That's Melvin Bender, Buell Land. That would have been one for the rezoning of approximately 28 acres from the agricultural zoning districts to the residential and residential mixed, I believe it is, R2. And then the special exception for the assisted living. And then the third application was for a special exception for the country store. So all of those were approved as submitted. The fourth public hearing that we did, the sixth public hearing we did was for the proposed Woodyard amendment. And the Board of Supervisors approved the Woodyard amendment with the redaction of, and I'll just do it briefly because we're going to probably talk about it with this one. So y'all had recommended the Woodyards with stipulations in 716.01 pertaining to the flood zone, 716.02 pertaining to the noise of, for hours of operation, and 716.03 pertaining to the vegetated buffer. They approved it as submitted with the subtraction of 02 with the hours of operation, feeling like that could be dealt with or should be dealt with during the special exception process. And same with number 3, 716.03. They struck that language from the ordinance, anticipating that would be dealt with on the special exception process. So what we got is we got a definition of woodyard, used by special exception in the A1 zoning district, used by special exception in the A2 zoning district, permitted use, of course, in industrial zoning district, and then the regulations as spelled out in 716.01. As far as the TCO goes, apologize, I have that on my phone. The TCO met on January 5th, 2022, a week ago day, and they approved the site plan for Dunkin', also known as Dunkin' Donuts, but this particular one is a Dunkin' that is going to be located on Econo Lane in between the Motel 6 and State Farm, the former Redwood restaurant, to be determined address off of Econo Lane. Very excited about that, groundbreaking. And Bedrock Car Wash is planning to be relocated from their current location on Rocklawn Lane off of East Midland Trail, just a little bit further out to Borden School Road. That's actually the access to the quarry itself. So if you go into the quarry versus taking a right to go to the scale house of the quarry, you would take a left into the Bedrock Car Wash. The third thing that was on the TCO agenda was some improvements to the Fancy Hill Exxon. Fairly simple. It was a sign, proposed sign. They sort of had a couple different locations of a proposed sign and finally settled on one. they explored doing it behind it, on top of the hill, some visibility issues. So it's sort of in the parking lot like a traditional gas price sign would be. They also approved the removal of a vestibula on the very front of the portion. Once they expanded the gas tanks, they were having some hard time cars maneuvering between the vestibula and the gas pumps themselves. So that went fine. And the third thing was a color change. When they originally came in to open, they were going to pressure wash the entire building and repaint the fascia and eaves white. Since that time, they actually painted half of the building into a red. They left half of it white and painted the fascia and eaves red on the other half, and it just wasn't it wasn't conducive to the surrounding area. With that being said, they preferred it to go back to the white with the original plan, and the owner was fine with that. Appeared to be fine with that. So that was all the news I have from the December 13th Board of Supervisors meeting and the January 5th TCO meeting. The
Thank you.
BZA did not meet in December.
Thank you. We're going to go on to item number 7. It's Lewis W. Jr. and Kendra R. Hamilton, 40 Black Bear Trail, Vesuvius, Virginia. We have a public hearing regarding their application for a special exception permit to operate a campground in the agricultural and limited uses A1 zoning district. At this time, we're going to open the public hearing. Is there anyone physically present who would like to speak?
Prior to the public hearing, I'll do a PowerPoint presentation. And Mr. and Mrs. Hamilton are in attendance here representing the project. I do have a very brief PowerPoint presentation. This is a special exception permit for a campground in the agricultural limited district. That's the A1. It's been a while since I've said A1 up here. Usually all our majority of our application and the majority of the agricultural zones located in the A2 zoning district. Details of the property itself, located 40 Black Bear Trail. That's a Vesuvius address. Again, the property is owned by Lewis W. Jr. and Kendra R. Hamilton. Tax map number 65-2-2A. The property consists of 2.28 acres per tax records. Apologize on the misspelling. Should be noted that Mr. and Mrs. Hamilton also currently own 2 adjacent properties to the north, and both of those total approximately 13.3 acres per tax records. This is located in the agricultural and limited use district, which is the AT zoning district. And there's currently a single family home on the property as addressed on 40 Black Bear Trail. Per section 602.03 of the County of Rockbridge Land Development Regulations, campgrounds are used by special exception in the A1 zone. Applicants have constructed a canvas glamping tent on the property. The glamping tent has a bed, bathroom, and a stand-up shower and service with electricity. There's no other campsites or additional units are part of this application. So it's limited to, under current conditions, I should say, it's limited to the existing glamping tent on the property. For discussion purposes, these following conditions could be associated with the special exception permit. Substantial compliance with the site map, the titled Hamilton Campground Special Exception Site Map, dated December 15th, 2021. That's included in your package. Campground is limited, the number 2, campground is limited to a single camping unit. No motorhome, tow behind campers such as pop-ups, toy haulers, teardrop trailers, stand-up trailers, or other recreational vehicles permitted. Number 3, campground is limited to blank vehicles, not to exceed blank number of people. That, of course, could be discussed and inserted in. And finally, number 4, approval contingent upon final VDOT, Office of Fire and Rescue Emergency Management, and Health Department approvals. With that, I'd like to stop sharing my screen briefly and turn the floor over to Mr. and Mrs. Hamilton to review additional details of the application and answer any questions that the commission may have.
Welcome.
Hello.
You want to add to what Mr. Sladen has presented there?
I think you covered just about everything.
Okay. Do we all have any questions up here?
Straightforward.
Yeah, it is very
How many
straightforward.
folks are you planning on, or how many folks can stay in this?
Well, it's a one bedroom, so, I'd say couples or single people would be.
You say maybe 2 adults and 2 kids or
Children.
something like that.
Like family? Okay.
Right. And vehicles then probably 2 at the most, if the 2
Right.
people met up there or something like that. Okay. Did you all have to have a building permit to do that work?
Well, we did. We got a little ahead of ourselves.
Okay,
So we turned all that in and it's waiting on this step. And
Okay.
The inspector's already been up there.
yeah. Have you all been renting it out?
We did until, I'll tell you a good one on Chris. He really does his job well.
Very
So it's
good.
named Paradise.
Ah,
And I
okay.
get a nice email says almost paradise.
Very
So
good.
we went through
Have
the
to have some
process
humor in
and-
the job or
Yeah.
it wouldn't be
You got to
worth
find
it.
it where you
humor
can
in
find it, right?
So me and Chris met up on site, he told me what I needed to do. We took it off rent. It's
Mhm.
off rent right now.
Where were you guys advertising? Was it on one of those glamping sites? Yeah, I guess there's.
Airbnb.
Oh, Airbnb.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Okay.
And it
well, I
rented a
appreciate-
couple times, but we just done it not, a few months ago, so
Okay,
June, something like this.
very good. Thank you. If you guys don't have any questions?
No, I don't.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you very much. Okay, so now we're ready for the public hearing. Is there anyone here physically who would like to speak? Don't see anybody.
Not
Anybody?
seeing anyone. I do have one letter before I can look on the online. I do have one letter to read that we received later this afternoon, addressed to the Rockbridge County Planning Commission and Board of Supervisors. It's titled, "We, the undersigned local landowners and residents, wish to voice our opposition to the rezoning being contemplated on Irish Creek Road, tax map 65-2-2A. We absolutely oppose any sort of campground or any other sort of venue. This is a peaceful, tranquil, undisturbed corner of paradise, and I apologize, can't read what, hope to keep it that way." Signed by Tony Ray Tyree and wife, 2143 Irish Creek Road. I believe it's a something C. Tomlin, 34 Long Rifle Lane. Miss Pippin, Georgia Pippin at the 47 Long Rifle Lane, and a Richard Connor located at 2049 Irish Creek Road.
Thank you. And we'll now take comments via computer and phone. Do we have any citizens that would like to make a comment?
If there are any citizens that are participating via Zoom, if you would like to make a comment on the proposed Hamilton campground, this is the time to raise your hand. Give you a few minutes or a few seconds to do so. Not seeing any raised hands, I will turn it back over to Chairman.
Okay, with no further comments, then the public hearing is closed. And we'll bring it back to the board. Comments, questions?
One question, Chris, the letter of opposition there, are all of those adjoining land?
I believe they're adjoining across the street. One second, please, and I can minimize my screen.
Bring the thing down toward you there, just so we make sure it's.
I got this fairly late today. I think it was about 4:30 today, so I did not have a great time. So they are in proximity. Some of them were considered direct adjoiners. Some of them did we do certified mail to all the direct adjoiners. So I can confirm Mr. Connor is a direct adjoiner across the street. And well, in fact, they are in very close proximity. If not direct adjoiners, per certified mail, they are located across the street. Yes, sir. Does that answer your question?
And Chris, are you aware of any problem? I mean, we haven't had any reports of anything. I mean, y'all haven't had any issues out there.
No, I think, it was brought to our attention from the Commissioner of Revenue's office, I believe. And with that being said, we had not heard anything about it up until that point. And I think y'all only rented it less than a handful of times until, I think it was like,
And I was gonna ask, are you all anticipating constructing any more on the site or just this one or?
On this site, we have on the property at a later date that we may want to look at doing something, but that's another project.
and I have said, I had a couple conversations. I gave Mr. Hamilton a heads up on a couple conversations we had. And I will say that was a majority of the question is this it? Is there future plans? I believe Mr. Hamilton had shared some potential future plans with some of the neighborhood, some of the citizens, just, being neighborly, if you will. With that being said, I think there was some assurances or some peace of mind that if and when Mr. and Mrs. Hamilton pursued other expansion plans, whether it be a venue or additional camping or additional camping or a venue, I should say, that it would be the same process with the zoning action pending signs, certified mail to all the joiners, and of course, newspaper advertisements.
Any other comments, questions? Having. Okay. Do we have anybody that wants to make a motion?
So did we decide 2 vehicles, 4 people?
Yes.
Um,
I do 5 people because you may have a family.
Well, I was gonna say, because that would knock me out if I had 2 vehicles and I have a family of 5, so.
Okay.
I make a motion to recommend to the Board of Supervisors the special exemption permit for development and operation of primitive campground and agricultural limited use A1 per LDR section 602.03-2 on a 2.848 acre parcel of land located at 40 Black Bear Trail, Vesuvius, Virginia 24483 on the south side of Irish Creek Road, Route 603 in the South River Magisterial District, identified as tax map 65-2-2A, owned by Lewis and Kendra Hamilton, be approved with the following conditions. Compliance with the site map titled Hamilton Campground Special Exemption Site Map and dated December 15, 2001. Campground, I'm sorry,
21.
21, sorry. Campground is limited to a single camping unit, no motorhome, tow behind campers such as pop-up campers, toy hauler, teardrop trailers, stand-up trailers, etc., and no other recreational vehicles permitted. Campground is limited to 2 vehicles and not to exceed 5 people. Approval contingents upon final VDOT, Office of Fire Rescue, Emergency Management, and Health Department approvals.
Okay, we have a motion. We have a second? Second. All in favor? Aye. Motion passes. Okay. Okay, so we are moving on to agenda item number 8, Crown Hardwood Company, 3505 West Midland Trail, Lexington, Virginia. We have a public hearing on the application for a special exception permit to operate a wood yard in the agricultural and general uses A2 zoning district.
Yes, ma'am, and I have a very brief PowerPoint presentation. The gentlemen from Crown Hardwood are here, as well as Mr. Russ Orson, the engineer on the project. All right, this is a special exception application for a wood yard in the A2 zoning district. A little bit about the property details. The property is located at 3505 West Midland Trail, Lexington, Virginia. Property is located in the A2 agricultural and general use zoning district. Per section 603.03-25 of the County of Rockbridge Land Development Regulations. wood yards, subject to the provisions set forth in 716 of the regulations, are used by special exception in the A2 zoning district. The zoning text amendment that provides for wood yards by special exception in the A2 zoning district was approved by the Board of Supervisors on December 13th, 2021. On September 8th, 2021, the Planning Commission held its public hearing for Crown Hardwood application. The application was contingent on approval of the zoning text amendment. On October 6th, 2021, Crown Hardwood requested a postponement of the review of the special exception application to allow for a zoning text amendment process to be completed. Due to the time frame between obviously the September 8th meeting and January 2022, with the zoning text amendment and the fact that the plan has been associated with the special exception permit has been modified to include the required plan to secure logs on site during flooding events, a second public hearing seemed warranted due to the significant substantive change. The site consists of 5.14 acres per tax records. There is a recent unrecorded plat showing the property consisting of 6.136 acres. So I will note, I'll change pointer option to the laser pointer. So I will note that based on that unrecorded plat, this is the correct shape of the parcel. So what's currently shown on the GIS is dated because the plat has not been recorded. So therefore, it's not official yet, I assume is the word. The property is currently owned by BB Ayers and Sons Incorporated and was previously utilized for excavation company. The majority of the site is located within the 100-year floodplain as determined by FEMA and shown on firm panel number 51163C 0250, and the effective date of our firm panels here in Rockbridge County are April 6, 2000. Section 608.13, 1 through 12 of the Land Development Regulations provides the review of additional factors to be satisfied with the development within the 100-year floodplain. In addition to that, 716.01 of the regulation stipulates that the placement or storage of logs in the flood hazard is allowed only if properly secured on the site in accordance with a sealed plan prepared by a professional engineer licensed with the Commonwealth of Virginia. Crown Hardwood has applied to operate a wood yard, again in the agricultural zoning district. A2 will use the site to store and grade logs before they're shipping the logs elsewhere. Currently operating the Fairfield area with plans to move to this location, Carrs Creek. Additionally, the current plans include addition of landscaping buffer along West Midland Trail, the eastern property line, and a portion of the western property line. Current plans include addition of gravel to the site as well as a cable fence on the east side of the property. As stated, the placement of storage yard, as stated in the previous slide, the storage or placement of logs in the flood hazard district is only allowed if properly secured on site with accordance with a sealed plan. Russ Orson, engineer for the project, and has proposed a cable fence to secure the logs on the property during the flooding event. Throughout the zoning text amendment, Mr. Orson has stated that they would like opportunity to work on the plan to keep the logs on site during the flooding events. It's not uncommon for surveyors, engineers to work with FEMA to determine a base flood elevation for a project within the 100-year floodplain. In this case, we do not have the luxury of a base flood elevation, but rather base the plan on current landowner historic knowledge of flooding. As far as draft conditions that could be utilized associated with this special exception permit, it could be number one, substantial compliance with the site plan prepared by Perkins and Orson titled Crown Hardwoods Incorporated Site and Special Exception Plan dated December 20th, 2021 and revised on December 29th, 2021. Number two, no use of machinery grading or sorting of logs, loading or unloading of trucks or other activities creating excess light or noise shall be conducted between the hours of 10 p.m. and 6 p.m. with the exception of one or two idling trucks waiting to be unloaded. And that's verbatim the language that we had in the draft ordinance, in the draft ordinance of the wood yards itself. And number three, Sunday operation Sunday operation shall not be allowed and no equipment shall be used on Sundays except for as needed with the following permitted activity. Now, A, property maintenance and repairs, B, equipment repairs, maintenance and installation of improvements, and C, log grading and I say scaling, but it should be sorting. No, excuse me, log grading and scaling. Is that correct? Is that okay? I was about to say, I got this from a previous log yards. I was sitting there. Sorry about that. C, log grading and scaling, not to include sorting. Exterior activities that produce noise shall be limited to the hours of 12 noon and 4 p.m. This condition was discussed at the September meeting, and this came from another sawmill pertaining to the wood yard. Number 4, the log yard is to be watered down as needed to control dust. And number 5, approval contingent on erosion and sediment control, stormwater management, and the Virginia Department of Transportation approvals. With that, I would like to turn the floor over to Crown Hardwood, the gentleman from Crown Hardwood, and Mr. Russ Orison, the engineer on the project. And I do have that, if you'd like me to pass that out. Yeah. So Mr. Orison does have a modified plan with a revised date on it, I assume, with a revised date of January 7th that I'll pass out. The only change, and correct me if I'm wrong, the only change from what is included in your package was on the eastern side of the property. It went from fence, buffer, property line. This current revised date of the 7th of this month goes trees, fence, property line. Fence can go directly on the property line. So with that, do I have those over here? You do. Okay.
11 by 17 sets are going in a large set. Back, we can get them down.
Yes, absolutely. I'll get them.
When you get the plan, there is the only one change, and I'll point that out to you. But when you get it turned to sheet 3, is kind of the main sheet. There's a lot of information there because of the site plan approval as well. But sheet 3 for the purposes of this meeting. Sheet 3, we show everything that we talked about. So the change, we'll do that first. The change you can see on the right side of the property, we're showing the fence right on the property line on the far side of the buffer. Previously, I had shown it on the near side of the buffer, and we rethought that and figured that it probably makes better sense to put the fence at the property line and have the buffer between our operation and the fence. So that's the only change from what you've seen previously. So for site plan approval, let's start with the entrance. You can see a VDOT entrance for a full tractor trailer configuration there. The existing entrance has worked fine for the Ayers family for a long time, but it doesn't comply with current VDOT standards, so it's a much larger entrance. We're proposing to move the gate back, so if the tractor trailer comes in, when the gate is locked, that the tractor trailer can get all the way off the road, of course, without blocking 850. So that's a new entrance there. When you come in the entrance, if you can imagine coming from 850 in the entrance, off to your right is a log staging area for loading for shipping out logs. So you can see the tractor trailer there with the maneuver. The tractor trailer would go around the existing fuel tanks that are going to remain in place, that are inside of a secondary containment system, and those stay for this project. And so those logs would be there a short time until they're loaded up, a known load to a known destination by tractor trailer. The log storage area, again, it's upside down on the plan, but if you come in the entrance and turn to the left, that's the proposed log storage area. You can see the log loading area. You can see in halftone, you can see all of the existing buildings. The existing buildings have been there for a long time. This certainly is in the floodplain. It's mapped by FEMA, but those buildings have been there for quite a long time. The Ayers have been there since the mid 80s. And I think Chris was actually on site shortly after a flood to put a few inches of water into the steel building. That's the main building on site that will remain. And as floods go, that building will certainly flood again. It'll get a few inches of water in it, and maybe more in the future. That's the nature of floods. But in 35 years, it's seen a couple inches. So that's the entrance. It's a great entrance. But Rockbridge County is a tough place to get good entrances with good sight distance for tractor trailers. This has excellent sight distance for tractor trailers. I can't think of a better spot to have a industrial entrance onto one of our roads. And so from a design standpoint, it's nice to have to not be battling with VDOT over limited sight distances. It's a relatively modest amount of traffic that comes in here. It's a few log trucks a day, some employees, and then at the most a couple of tractor trailers with product leaving throughout the day. So the big one is the floodplain, and really the way we're dealing with the flood issues on the site is twofold. The main thing is in the box to the lower left, and it's really just a strategy to have good housekeeping on site. Over the course of working with this client, these guys seem to be top shelf, and they're highly recommended by the loggers that work with them in our community, and I think they're going to keep a good site. And with the conditions, with this narrative being right on this plan, when you say in compliance with this plan, this site preparedness narrative goes with your approval of what they need to do to keep an eye. So it calls for them, I won't read it, but it calls for them to keep an eye on weather reports, the local manager, and to make sure that they have good housekeeping on site. And if there's actually a rainfall event that's going to produce flooding, that they police the site and make sure that all their logs are in piles rather than just spread about the site. In talking with a lot of local people and learning stuff, talking to CS, talking to Jerry Deacon, talking to Will Harris, everybody said, man, logs are heavy. Get them in stacks. Get them in stacks, and they're heavy, and it takes a lot of flooding. I did a calculation of an idealized stack of lumber just using logs, and I used a variety, kind of some white oak, red oak, walnut, hickory, and the specific gravity of that, and a pile that is 11 feet tall, an idealized stack, would take 7 feet of water for it to become buoyant, 7 feet deep. And you can see that on the site, we don't expect to see even 7 feet of water. So I feel good about the site preparedness narrative that would become part of this approval. In addition to that, if we do have floating logs, this site is going to flood. It's in the floodplain. It is not right up against the creek. I don't expect high velocities. I don't expect stuff to wash with velocities, but stuff could float. We've shown a fence around the lower areas of the property, a stout fence made out of steel cable that is spaced a foot apart so that hopefully debris can pass through. It won't get clogged by small debris. And I've talked that over with a local fence builder, and we're already talking to that fence builder about getting the fence constructed if approved. I've gotten some input individually from some of you all and from others, some suggestions to make it even stouter, and we will certainly be looking at that. But the way it's proposed now is the corner posts are utility poles repurposed and set in concrete. The line posts are 6-7 foot diameter treated posts, the cable going right through the middle of it, drilled through the middle of it, and 4 steel cables, a foot on center, starting a foot and a half off the ground. So a foot and a half off the ground so that the small stuff can wash on through in smaller floods. So between the housekeeping, which I think is the majority of it, is having a decent site in the event of flooding, and then having a stout fence for things that are floating to try and keep them on site, to keep them from going downstream. I think that's a winning combination. Chris, can you pull up Stella Jones' aerial photo?
Sure.
So heartening to me, because I've worked with Stella Jones quite a bit and done a lot of work with Stella Jones, and they are a huge industrial facility here in the county. Can you turn the aerial photo on?
But let me get there. I'm on
There's Creek. I've been heartened also throughout the process of these meetings. Not many people come to these public hearings for these things. I've been heartened that the guys behind me have come to every single meeting, and they are looking forward to having this facility. And I think that speaks volumes. People giving up their time and their energy to support something, because oftentimes we're here just us, right? So it's nice to have those guys even see us.
All right, so getting everyone oriented here. This is the corner of Bratton's Run and Maury River Road. Goshen, of course, would be back towards the south there, and the town of Goshen would be to the north.
Turn off the flood protection, turn on the photo. So this is Stella Jones, and you guys are all familiar with Stella Jones. Come along, 39 from Lexington. These are their railroad ties, and they do. They have green ties, they have dry ties. They treat them on site, dry them again. You get the darker ones, they've been treated and whatnot. So these are, and you guys have been out there and seen those, and I did do a calculation of how many railroad ties are out there. I would like to know. These are all their railroad ties as they'll turn the floodplain on. There's the floodplain right here. Turn the floodplain on. These are the 100,000 or whatever they are railroad ties right here, and they keep them stacked up and stacked up so that they're nice and heavy, so they're not buoyant, so that when they have a flood, they don't lose their product, and that's the trick. I think that's all I've got, unless you have any questions.
Anybody have any questions up here? Okay, very good, thank you.
So somewhat ironically enough, Mr. Alphen and I had Mr. Alphen shared a story with me. I think it was the flood of '85 that Stella Jones lost their entire inventory, if the majority of.
They lost a lot. They were mostly treated ties that weren't in the air stacks. They were black ties,
Okay,
but you know what 85 was compared to everything else that we've dealt with.
hey, Chris, are we ready to open the public hearing then?
If there's no questions from the planning commission, yes, ma'am.
Okay, at this time, we're going to open the public hearing. If there's anyone physically present who would like to speak,
I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. No one signed up.
just a reminder to give your name, magisterial district, and try to keep your comments to 3 minutes.
Tim Goodbar, I'm a resident of Carson Creek Magisterial District. I would like to urge y'all to send this on to the Board of Supervisors, if at all possible. I've sat and I've listened, been some wonderful comments came, and I know Timmy, and I know what his comments would have been if he'd been here. I'm about to say something is for me and really not for them. One of the bigger reasons that I'd like to see this thing approved, I supply them. When I come in there in the evenings and I want to go home, I'm 1.5 miles from my house. Yeah, that's one of my bigger reasons. But I've been dealing with Gunner since March, right regular. We have a wonderful relationship, and anything Gunner tells me that I take it to the bank, and it's been a joy to work with him. It's, Mr. Perkins mentioned safety, the sight distance. The one in Fairfield's not a very safe entrance. They're crowded for room. They have plenty of room here, and it's a safe entrance. It's a whole lot safer. And I would just encourage you to really give it a lot of thought, and I would like for y'all to send this on to the supervisors. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Goodbar. Any other comments from anyone in the room?
I'll just say, see, I'll switch doors, everybody knows, man.
Okay.
I'm gonna speak just kind of as a citizen, not as supporter. The thing that I keep looking at is we got a piece of property that has probably no value as floodplain. If you were just going to leave it as a piece of farming ground, somebody cut a little bit of hay off of it or whatever. But if you look at it from a tax base, if this thing gets approved as a log yard and the transaction takes place and it gets sold, so forth, I see it as a win-win as a citizen for our county to help with some tax revenue. So that's just one thing I'd like.
Thank you, Mr. Fitzgerald. Any other comments from anybody in the room? Thank you. Okay, do we have any comments via computer or phone?
We do have one written comment that I'll read. It is from C. McCarthy. An address provided is 3441 West Midland Trail. I do not have a timer, but I believe it's going to be under 3 minutes. It says, "Good day. The idea of proposed wood yard was first presented to me by my neighbor Lou. He lives across the road and has been a resident for more than 30 years, lives across the road from the proposed location. This proposition is very concerning for many reasons. Number one, safety. People in the area, especially downstream, environmentally for Carrs Creeks and a stream, and for the animal/plant life around the area and land. Number two, this is a flood zone. Just late August 2020, we had a substantial flood at the site area, and as the person who lives just next door to the proposed area, the flood waters resulted in serious damages to my fencing garden. Number three, as the person who lives just next door downstream, this is a serious concern for my safety, my family, animals, and plans for goats/lambs next spring. Number four, certainly not convinced putting gravel and boulders to stop the poser/force of Carrs Creek stream and dangers. Number five, this is an agricultural zoning and permit an expansion is both a risk to the people living here and to the stream and land. Number six, per research, hauling logs is considered one of the most dangerous jobs and accidents per statistics for more rural areas where we live. Where we live and more fatal accidents, 78% occur in the Southeast SE United States. Number seven, where is their environmental report for this venture/risk? Number eight, I've already witnessed multiple log trucks traveling down West Midland Trail, big, noisy, and add more lug trucks would hurt the quality of life for West Midland Trail residents and surrounding neighbors. The animals' environments put our daily lives at risk. Risk to increase the toxins, exhaust fumes, and associated health risks like asthma and cancer. Number nine, also West Midland Trail is used by many bicycle enthusiasts, both local and away, who enjoys to like to bike the area, feel safe, enjoy nature and countryside. Number 10, West Midland Trail is a school bus route, and we want a safe path for our children and all, and no additional road risk like big log trucks. Number 11, the proposal is unsafe, hurtful for the people and environment, and will hurt Carrs Creek stream, and has been around for a long time and will increase human and water toxicity. It will hurt our people, water, air, and land. So the proposal has been presented by a highly dangerous business from start to finish at a high-risk flooding area, land right on Carrs Creek stream, agricultural community. For what? Since living here, I've witnessed a great blue heron, a large wetland burr, and perches on a tree, and on Carrs Creek eggs lies to her water. Please say no. The next meeting for this proposed is Board of Supervisors on September 27th, 2021 at 5:30. The Board of Supervisors meeting room 150 South Main Street. Can join via Zoom. Submit a written comment. Sincerely, C. McCarthy. Again, I gave the address. I talked to Ms. McCarthy. This is obviously a dated email that she had forwarded on to the supervisor, and I explained to her that there was a revised plan, revised date, but and that was only today, and she did not have time to update this letter nor review the revised plan.
Thank you. Do we have anybody on Zoom or on the phone, Chris?
This is the public hearing for Crown Hardwood on the Carrs Creek area. If you would like, I do have one attendee who would like to raise their hand, who has raised their hand? Miss Spencer? I will ask you to unmute if you'd like to make comments.
Hi, yes, this is Shannon Spencer. I'm in the Walkers Creek Magisterial District. I just wanted to comment. I know you made a statement about the 1985 flood that was an unusual event, and I just wanted to make note that these unusually large flooding events are going to almost certainly become more common as our weather is unstable. But I also wanted to comment with a real life experience that I'm coming off of the Planning Commission in a different area and have moved back here. And we had a situation where a gas station was approved by the former planning commission, and then also the board of supervisors in that area in a flooding zone. And they were the folks who, the lawyers for them, were very adamant that it was not going to be a problem. They were never going to get water up above the gas station tanks. And they went ahead, they built the gas station in this flood zone. And sure enough, about 6 months after they completed the gas station, that gas station was completely underwater from a freak flood event. So I just wanted to make that comment and encourage you to require an environmental plan if you haven't already done that. But also I just think that it needs to have a lot of caution there. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Spencer. Do you have anybody else on Zoom or on the phone?
If there's anyone else that'd like to speak, please raise your hand now. Thank you, Ms. Spencer.
Mhm.
Not seeing any. I'll give you a few more seconds here. Not seeing any. I'll turn the floor back over to the chair.
Okay, with no further comments, the public hearing is closed. We'll bring it back to the board.
And I would just like to note that if you do want to incorporate some of, Mr. Orson stated that the some of the stipulations on good housekeeping, those type of things would be incorporated into the ordinance, and to date they are not. We've read the draft conditions, and so those are the draft conditions that are in front of y'all this evening. Also commented that some I think it was some individual planning commission members had some ideas to make the fence stouter. And so if we would like to incorporate those into this plan, this would obviously be the appropriate time to do so.
Okay. Now, so the first thing says substantial compliance with the plan. The plan actually has like the details, right, about what they're going to do to create, the site preparedness for if a flood is coming, right, Mr. Orson?
Yeah.
So do
That
we
would
need
cover-
to add those as far as I guess.
Well, we have to ensure that they are,
They're written right there in the corner.
yes. And so what I'm getting at is a large copy that I can,
See?
yes, I can see. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Do we need to change that to the January 7, 2021 for that?
1/7/22.
So dated December 2021 and revised on January 7th, 22.
We're trying to capture logs. We're gonna have to do more than put telephone poles in concrete. In the corners, and the way I look at this thing, this fence is going almost back up to the old building, correct? Site plan. You need, what I'm seeing, 5 steel posts in there, what you put in between is fine. But you need 5 steel posts in concrete, and I'm saying 12, 14 inch, 16 inch Like concrete. If you're trying to anchor logs in, that's what you're gonna have to anchor it in. I know what water does, worked with CS for 15 years. I know what water does, and I know what water does with logs and how they go downstream, and how they can go. If we're trying to capture them, let's make sure we do it right the first time. It's not gonna add that much as far as expense goes. Put those steel posts in instead of telephone poles. In my opinion.
Mr. Orson, do you have, I mean, you're the engineer, so I'm assuming there's a reason you came up with your plan.
It's a mixture of common sense and cost and all of those things. So certainly over some period of time, a telephone pole does rot. And so if we go with a steel post, I'm not disagreeing with Robert. If we go with that, if we could not specify a diameter or something like that, it's kind of what may be available as scrap or something like that. We might even go with an I-beam or something. Could we do something that I have some flexibility to find something that is available?
You have to have some type of minimum on it, because if not, I mean, I can foresee a 6-inch steel post getting put in the ground and not being probably as strong or as possibly a telephone pole you're talking about this big around. That's new going in
That's right.
versus, 10 years down the road.
And it's
What do you
good
think?
we're having this conversation, because certainly when you said steel post, I was picturing it just a schedule 40 steel.
Okay.
I think it should be 10 or 12-inch H-beam. Just what we would use for piling. That's,
Find that, I mean, not want to lose your support, nor do we want to be short-sighted in what we do. Steel is hard to get, but if we can define it some way that we can agree to put in some deep steel, I'm sure we could.
But the I-beams or H-beams might actually be used to put cable through anyway.
well, that's right. It makes a good job.
Rather than a piece of pipe. I like that better.
Let's go with a wide flange. I bet
A
we
wide
can find wide flange,
Oh, it's no problem.
no problem.
Everywhere you make a bend in the fence, you need to do that. So I'm looking at 5 spots is what I'm looking at. Is that right?
It is.
It sounds like you said a wide flange 10-inch I-beam or H-beam.
No, H-beam, yeah, and 10 minimum, 12 would be good. Should be able to find some of that used from Fairfield Bridge, Russ.
I just foresee maintenance in the future as being something that'll be neglected. And this is gonna be in there long term. Built to last.
So we could change that first condition to add with the change, making a wide flange 12-inch H-beam in place of the telephone poles.
Repurpose.
Minimal. Because if you get something bigger,
Yeah, we might do something.
make it happen.
And I'm seeing 4 proposed utility poles on
Yeah,
the
there was
plan.
one long run, Mr. Alvin asked me to split, so I think it would end up being a total of 5 is correct. And we're happy with that.
But so there's 4 bins. Well, yes. Okay.
We'll do 5.
And that would be splitting the difference, splitting it in half on the long run.
So basically, we would just say with 5 repurposed telephone poles being replaced by wide flange, minimum 12-inch H-beam.
Wide flange.
12-inch H-beam,
Wide range.
minimum 12-inch H-beam.
I don't know what pound per foot that would be. We'll get into that one. You might know that, Tim, but I don't.
Let's not get into that, but I'll run by you, Robert, and you guys that deal with that stuff. I'll run by it.
And what does, meaning, what are we going to run by Robert?
It's
Just
not
steel
put that
strip.
in there, but
Yeah.
They come in various weights and he doesn't want to be too thin. And so they go by weight per.
Weight per foot. Wait for foot. Correct, Jim? It's been a while since I played in school.
I don't have.
He missed the common parlance, but it's a W.
So should we call it a wide?
It's what you call it is exactly right.
Okay, all right, great. I'll make sure we got that. So whoever has to read that has it right. Any other comments or questions?
So the only thing I have, some of the site preparedness, I would just like to go through there and set, make sure we're on the same page of what some of these are, in my opinion, not enforceable. But if we want to have some good housekeeping is what we're calling it. If we want to add those two conditions, storm warning, when storm warnings are issued or when significant rainfall events are forecasted, all logs on the site shall be stacked in such a manner to include buoyancy of single logs. I think those obviously significant rainfall events are in the forecast, is subject to interpretation, obviously. And so one of them, the next one says when storm watches or warnings are issued for an area, confirm that the site is generally ordered and stacked any straight logs. And so if we want to do a watch and a warning are obviously two different things. You watch for a warning.
If we do play it with the plan or however you want to word that, Chris, we won't have to get into all that. And I tried to word that carefully and inclusively and thoroughly. It's what we expect of them. It's what they said they would do. It's in the plan. And when we say that the plan's included, that's what they said they would do. The enforcement of some things I know are difficult, but it shouldn't limit what people can do with their land because it's hard to enforce. It's on the plan. It's clear. It's what they said they would do. It's what we're going to hold it to. And I would like to go with what we have there unless there's specific improvement. Go with what's on the plan, by just including the plan as substantial compliance.
Well, I'll say one thing. Crown Hardwood is buying logs, and they're paying good money for logs, and they don't want them to float down the creek. So they're going to do everything that they possibly can to make sure that their valuable product is stacked or up against the road or as close as they can to make sure if there is something going on with a flood so that they don't lose it. They don't want to have to go downstream and get it. And that's my opinion. So I think they're going to do everything in their power to make sure it doesn't float away. Now, granted, once in a while, you're going to get a flood that comes in and something's going to float. It's going to happen. Seen it before and everybody's going, holy crap, it's flooding. And and nobody realizes it's going to be as bad as it is. So, but that happens once every 100 years. Okay.
Well, and I think it's specific when it says storm watch or warning, that they're going to do these things if there's a storm watch or warning. So that's not subjective. As soon as the storm watch or warning comes, then that should,
I'd
put
say
them in.
that they're going to make sure the site is in general, they're going to make during
sure the
those
logs are
events, they're
stacked.
going to make sure the site is generally orderly.
It
You know,
doesn't say something about specific straight logs or stacks and
the next one says when storm warnings are issued, and that is certainly different than a watch. So are issued or significant rainfall events are forecast, all logs on the site shall be stacked in such a manner as to include the buoyancy of a single log. For Crown Hardwoods protection for Crown Hardwoods and the next
maybe.
log yard that goes there, conditions are supposed to be drafted such as ordinances, and they have to be fairly unique to the property, obviously. And I'm just seeing a lot of ambiguity in some of these statements. So, because when we have to figure out if it's a storm warning or watch, or is it both?
Is it
I mean,
both?
so or are we saying it's both? We're saying if we have a storm warning that
There's things there about watches or warnings, and then there's things there specifically for warnings. I didn't intend to have them restack their whole yard
watching.
As defined, a watch is conditions may allow this to happen. A warning is when something is actually
Imminent.
forecast to happen. So I was trying to be careful with the wording, that when it's a warning, that's when they do specific things on site that take some of their time and effort to make sure their site is as ready as it can be for those things. So I think it is specific. And I mean, that's I don't know how many page plan set. There's a lot of stuff on there. Chris. It's a big site plan, but compliance with it doesn't mean that.
This would be the only page that we're referencing in the special exception application.
I've never seen you reference only single pages, but if you're gonna do it this time, that's fine.
Well, usually
I've never
we,
seen you do that before.
usually we do not have erosion sediment control plan and the stormwater management plan.
Coming as a site plan, so it's inclusive.
Yes. So as discussed in the draft, I believe it just says the site and special exception plan.
It
The
says
other
just,
ones
it
we're
just
dealing
says
with
with
are-
the plan. So, you know, maybe we need to change that wording and say the site plan or, I mean, it's the whole, I mean, I think we should be looking at the whole plan. I mean, because it does have lots of facets to it because of what it is and where it is.
So what are we eliminating?
Well, I think we need to add a word in and set substantial compliance with the what?
So
site-
to clarify, it says substantial compliance with the plan prepared by Perkins Orris entitled the Town Hardwoods Incorporated Site and Special Exception Plan. And so that would only pertain to the site and special exception plan.
Right, so if we want to look, if we want them to consider that whole 7 pages worth, what would we call it?
Well, I don't think you do. I mean, we
Okay.
never have in the past. You're not concerned with erosion sediment control plan. So the erosion sediment control plan is different than the site and special exception plan,
But
correct?
wouldn't the environmental page be just as important?
That's that sheet.
Right.
Any way you want to.
But the erosion and sediment plan is just as important as the site and special exemption plan.
Exception.
Two
Yeah.
different processes. And I will note, I will,
Process for this.
Right.
If you guys approve a special exception site plan, you're actually approving the site. plan. That's our custom in this county. So when you guys approve, if you. You're actually approving the site plan. We don't go to a separate, even though site plan approval is your purview, and the approval of this will be the approval of the whole thing. That's how we do it in this county.
and I separated it out based on our conversation that the erosion sediment control is different than the site and special exception plan. So it's, we can't necessarily cherry pick which sets of plans are we going through. Are we doing 7 or are we doing 3?
And which is fine, because the narrative is on sheet 3, so if we assume it's only sheet 3, that is part of the condition that's on that sheet, and you'll be adopting it if you adopt.
We're adopting that language.
And that's why the staff recommendation only referenced page 3.
Mhm.
Because it is different and it is unusual to have a different erosion sediment control plan than the special exception plan. Because the special exception plan shows proposed expansion that is not included in the erosion sediment control plan.
Okay.
And I can certainly work with Russ and the Crown Hardwood group to look at the site preparation and I do think it should be more nailed down than this. I'm happy to work with them on the language. But I am concerned on not only current interpretation, but future interpretation of some of these things. And the enforceability of them, I should say.
Right.
I'm good with that. So.
And we've talked about this obviously throughout the process on the ability of taking logs off site and the ability to, during flooding events. And we've done that with previous projects. Unfortunately, Carrs Creek does not have a flood gauge like other projects we worked on. So we had no threshold to say, okay, once the gauge hits this much, everything's got to come off the site, which we have done in other projects, obviously.
So my question, I guess, then goes back to if we want to move forward with this, but you're going to change some things, would you add to that and with clarifications to the site plan preparedness?
I believe so,
reference on
yes.
page 3?
I mean, if y'all, if we obviously know the intent of the site preparedness. If y'all are comfortable with the intent there and are comfortable with me working with Crown and Mr. Orson on this same language and which ones we feel are enforceable or
Just need to be clear. I think just clarification. You're trying to nail down something more specific instead of just saying rising, water. Is it 10 inches? Is it 2
Yeah,
inches?
because truthfully, I have no idea how, as a zoning administrator, that would enforce these. All lights on site shall be stacked in a manner that preclude buoyancy of single logs. So I don't know if that's 4 logs or the 11-foot stack of logs that we talked about earlier. So those are the type of things that I would be concerned
wanna-
with on.
So you could nail all that down before it went to the supervisor.
Yes.
Board supervisors.
With
You
the
comfortable
fence,
with that?
with the fence they're trying to put up here, they're gonna try to keep everything in. I mean, with this steel cable fence, I think they're gonna try to keep all their product and everything that they purchased inside of that fenced in area because they don't want it floating away. If it's
Absolutely.
Stacking it, they're gonna stack
Mm.
it. Now, if they've got 10 logs on the yard and they stack 10 logs up, that's not gonna be as many as you figured in your pile, but if they got 10 logs on the yard, they can put them up against the road and then the water will get to them.
Right, those stacks, those are gonna be dependent on what's on the yard at the time. So there's no way that we can define, we can't really put a number on those.
300.
That I-
Okay.
Best. Correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, but it might work best if you're so inclined to approve the way it is, it brings those conditions in, but in the meanwhile, I'm just saying, I am happy to work with Chris to clean up that language as he wishes. And it's not unusual for me to go to the board with a slightly revised plan, having learned something at planning commission, working with Chris and saying to the board, this was approved by planning commission. In the meanwhile, I've worked with Chris and we changed this and this is how we changed it. If that's what you guys said.
It would change for the better.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, right. Okay.
And I do think that needs to be part of the condition is that there are going to be clarifications to the site preparedness plan, which will be worked out with Perkins and Orson and Mr. Sladen.
Russ and Chris decide that it's good the way it is, then.
Then we go with it,
We're
right?
good with it.
Mhm.
I'm good with that.
Okay. You clear?
But
My notes were probably not as well as yours.
So I don't know.
I'm just hoping the whole thing's on YouTube so I can write some minutes
Yeah.
next time this month.
You read it and then I'll let you choose. Okay. Oh my goodness. Good luck. Yeah. Okay, I make a motion to recommend that the Board of Supervisors of a special exemption permit to Crown Hardwood Company to develop and operate a wood yard in the agricultural and general use district A2 at 3505 West Midland Trail in Karsh Creek Magisterial District, identified as tax map 46-A-62 to be approved with the following conditions. Substantial compliance with the plan prepared by Perkins and Orson titled Crown Hardwood Company site and special exemption plan dated
December 20th,
Yeah.
21.
Oh,
and
December
revised.
20th, 21 and revised January 7th, 2022
With
with,
the following change, repurposed telephone poles will be
okay.
replaced with.
Oh my goodness. With revised, with five replaced telephone poles,
With
2 wide flanged, 10-inch,
12-inch
12-inch H-beam, and with clarification to the site plan preparedness plan. Okay. No use of machinery, grading or sorting of logs, loading and unloading of trucks or other activities creating excess light or noise shall be conducted between the hours of 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. with the exception of one or two idling trucks waiting to be unloaded. Sunday operations shall not be allowed and no equipment shall be used on Sundays except as needed for the following permitted activities: property maintenance and repair, equipment repair, maintenance, installation and improvements, log grading and scaling, not to include sorting, Exterior activities that produce noise shall be limited between the hours of 12 noon and 4 p.m. The log yard is to be watered down as needed to control dust. Approval contingent of erosion and sediment stormwater management and Virginia Department of Transportation approvals. Site. Did I need to read that?
That's it. No.
Okay.
Okay.
One thing that wasn't mentioned in that, and it's just common sense, but in our world today, maybe we should mention it, that flood preparedness on Sunday. It's not mentioned in there.
But if they have to prepare for a flood,
If
that
they're,
they have
if they're
the,
preparing for a flood, that probably should be mentioned.
okay. So maybe on the part where it's talking about no operations on Sunday, we can say
Right.
with the exception if they have to
Flood
do
preparedness.
flood
Or where we
preparedness.
say property maintenance and repairs or flood preparedness.
Yes,
you
I
know.
think that would be perfect.
Thank you.
And where are we adding that to?
Right there at Sunday operations shall not be allowed. No equipment shall be under A, property maintenance and repairs and flood preparedness. And I would think that would go for 7 days a week if we were calling for a flood.
Right.
Yes.
Okay, we have a motion.
Second.
A second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
No opposed. So the motion carries.
Absolutely, yes. Thank y'all for your patience.
I'm optimistic.
Right. Okay, so thank you.
Thank you.
We are at agenda item number 9, Rockbridge County zoning text amendment to define and provide for cultural music centers and cultural art centers as uses by special exception in the agricultural and general uses zoning district and in the agricultural transitional as a permitted use in the general business B1 zoning district.
Yes, just, I do not have a PowerPoint presentation, but briefly, I'll read the summary of information. At the October 13th, 2021 Planning Commission meeting, after hearing a request from Mr. James Panabaker, the commission directed staff to research and prepare information concerning the definition of a cultural music center to expand the definition to include cultural arts center. Mr. Panabaker is the owner of Thunder Bridge Campground and would like to have the ability to rent spaces to artists and have the ability for those artists to hold workshops and art shows. At the November 11th, 2021 Planning Commission meeting, staff presented the following draft language that could be utilized to define cultural art centers. That language is in your ordinance. I won't reiterate that at this time. During the November 11th meeting, the commission directed staff to research how other localities define and provide for cultural art centers and music centers. At the December 8th, 2021 Planning Commission meeting, staff reviewed the findings. The commission directed staff to advertise for public hearing for the proposed zoning text amendments. So if I could just share my screen very briefly, I think I'm going to pull up. Sorry. I was just going to go ahead and pull up the actual zoning text amendments. So what the proposed zoning text amendments do is define cultural arts centers and cultural music centers. We as per the discussion, we felt to be beneficial, and it's saying my internet connection is unstable. So hopefully everyone's still with us. We thought it'd be beneficial to separate out the two, the cultural arts center and cultural music center. And then they are provided by special exceptions in the A2 zoning districts under 603.03-18 and 18A. Same would be true for the AT zoning districts provided for in 13 and 13A by special exceptions. And then as directed by the Planning Commission last month, would be a permitted use. Both of them would be a permitted use in the business zone per 45 and 46 as shown on the screen. With that, I will turn the floor back over to I will stop sharing my screen and turn the floor back over to the chairperson.
Okay, at this time, we're going to open the public hearing. Is there anyone physically present who would like to speak?
Okay. I do have 3 letters to write, or excuse me, I have 3 letters to read. that were mailed in or emailed in, excuse me. And I will read these in the order that they were received. They are all fairly brief, so I think they are no need to time it. I think they're all under 3 minutes. The first is from Susan Brady, Rockbridge County, Brady, excuse me. Rockbridge County zoning text amendment to define and provide for cultural centers and cultural art centers as uses by special exception in the A2 and zoning district and the AT transitional and as a permitted use in the B1 zoning district. So that was the title of the subject. The bulk of, or excuse me, the letter states, this will be an asset for Rockbridge County, bringing the chance for both perform and exhibit and to hear and see music and art in parts of the county where those opportunities do not currently exist. Also, the possibility for more outdoor cultural venues is increased, a plus in a pandemic times. I support this amendment. Susan Brady, Rockbridge County. The second one that was received is from a Eben Otsby, OSTBY, 2694 Ford Road, Glasgow address. The reference is the same as the agenda item. It says, to the chairman and members of the Rockbridge County Planning Commission, I am writing in support of this proposal to be discussed on January 12th to permit exceptions for cultural art centers, cultural music centers in the agricultural and general use district and in transitional districts. In my view, Rockbridge County is an area with a distinction missed attractions, excuse me, for residents and visitors alike. Being predominantly rural and beautiful, the area invites both agricultural and recreational uses. I believe it's in all of our interest and all of your interest to support just these kinds of activities. Arts and music fit well into country life, being attractive to tourists while also being A, compatible with our rural lifestyles, and B, light on the land, occurring little or negatively visually impact on infrastructure or the environment. Of course, there are already similar uses that seem to be quite compatible in the county. Clark's Old Time Music Center certainly is one. Retreat centers such as Hearthstone are very similar, and the Art Studio Tour has demonstrated that art events successful and appropriate in the county. And some, I support special exceptions for art and music centers to encourage you to do as well. Number 3 is from James Panabaker, the third email that we received is from James Panabaker, 445 Arnold's Valley Road, Natural Bridge Station. It states, dear members of the Planning Commission, thank you for this opportunity to comment on the zoning text amendment you are considering this evening. Please approve this zoning text amendment. I'd like to mention how grateful I am to live in a community with so many talented, skilled people, not just artists, craftspeople, and musicians. I am continually amazed to find that with little looking, someone nearby knows how to do anything we'd like to have done. Properties may differ, and sometimes it takes cajoling and to get the work done. But we've got it all. Tonight, you're considering the many artists, craftspeople, and musicians in our county. If we promote and enable them, we can make Rockbridge County destination for the arts. Lexington has galleries on Washington Street, at Washington and Lee, and at the Y, restaurants and other places. Let's make the county at least as welcoming. As you know, we at Thunder Bridge want to offer a campground with the focus on arts. We've already approved the special exception to allow us to do this, but we'd like to open our facilities to the general public, not just our campers. This zoning text amendment would eliminate the gray areas, and let us apply for a special exception to do this. Please pass the amendment along to the county commissioners. Thank you, James Panabaker. Those are the 3 written comments that we have received.
Thank you. Do we have anybody on Zoom or on the phone?
We do have 2 people with their hands raised. The first is Shannon Spencer. I will ask you to unmute now, Ms. Spencer.
Thank you. Shannon Spencer, Walker's Creek. I just wanted to, I am also in support of this, but I would ask if there is a decibel limitation on those. And this is speaking from experience in Rockbridge County. There was a concert that was approved, got permitted and approved. This is probably about 10 years ago. Down at the bottom of the hill where we live. And it was during the day, and we were having a very small family gathering, and we could not hear each other talk outside because the music coming from the bottom of the hill, which was, more than a quarter mile away, was so loud. So I would really strongly encourage some sort of language in there with some decibel limitations, but then also hours and lighting regulations, as well as addressing the need for restrooms, parking, and traffic control. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
There is one more hands raised. And that is Mr. Panabaker, it looks like. And
Hello, this is James. Can you hear me?
yes, sir, we can hear you.
You've already said what I was going to say, so I just wanted to say I would like to encourage the commission to pass the amendment on to the Board of Supervisors for the reasons I stated in my letter. Thank you very much.
Perfect. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
We have one more, Mr. Wise.
Yeah, I have concerns also about some of the issues that Spencer talked about. I'm not sure exactly how this is going to be done in terms of the fact that it seems to be that these cultural music and art centers are allowed to lease out their property to third parties who may be from outside the area and may not be aware of the lighting ordinances, the noise ordinances, and I don't see anything that addresses traffic. And of course, all these things can be done through special exception. I understand, but it just seems like there might need to be mention of some of these factors in the ordinance.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Wise. You have anybody else?
I believe we might have one more attendee with their hands raised. Bear with me here. That is all with the hands raised. And we did not. No, I'm sorry.
You've got a comment in the chat.
That was earlier.
Okay.
Apologize.
That's okay.
Okay. So if there are no other comments, we are going to close the public hearing and bring it back to the board. Questions, comments?
I guess for just to follow up Mr. Wise's comment and Ms. Spencer's, so this is the ordinance. If a facility or a property wanted to host a cultural arts center, they have to come to us with a special exemption so we can set those guidelines.
That is correct. One thing to note is that this proposed zoning text amendment, while it does allow for the where it allows the music center must be in an enclosed structure. So that's one thing to note. This would not provide for outdoor music. I believe I remember the music festival that Ms. Spencer was referring to. That still is a possibility. And I'm not saying that could not happen again, but that is a separate permit that goes directly. It's an outdoor music event that if I recall the correct one, they got an outdoor music event. And that would be for outdoor music. And so that this particular section of the ordinance would not allow for outdoor music.
And as far as hours and restrooms and parking, is that all stuff that would be dealt with in a special exception
It could very well be
permitting
as,
process?
yes, it very well could be as far as the adequacy of the parking, I wouldn't foresee lighting being installed for temporary. Well, even if it was installed, it'd have to be in compliance with outdoor lighting regulations. But with that being said, the parking, adequate parking certainly could be covered similar to we do now with venues, special events, I should say.
Right. So we're just coming up with a definition and saying that these things can be held in the A2
By special
by
exception.
special
yes.
exception. So
Yeah.
then they still would come to us and then we could deal with each of the issues, whether, depending on the
Individual, location,
what the event
population,
is and
things
all
like
that.
that.
Yes,
Okay.
but with that being said, obviously, if there's overwhelming, the same thing, if there's overwhelming concerns, particular aspect of it, it could be addressed through the zoning text amendment. But with that being said, we currently have a cultural music/art center definition that we're modifying, obviously, and that was actually done. I almost piggybacked off the comment that was actually created because of Clark Old Time Music Center. They were doing that activity for quite some time, and then they started to charge for it, and then therefore business license, etc. And so then the zoning was modified to allow for that type of use
Right.
as a special exception.
But I think if we try to send it to the Board of Supervisors like we did the law, they'll send it back to, not back to us, but they'll come back to us and tell us the same thing that you told us that they did at the last meeting. It's like that will be handled under each permit itself, special exemption permit.
Right. I don't think we want to get into that. I mean, this is just
We
the
were trying to,
definitions. We
yeah.
don't want to get into the specifics. That's handled at the special exception permit hearing.
Again, yeah, it definitely is, unless there's consistent factors that want to be addressed. That's
I don't-
correct.
I don't think so because I think every
pro-
piece of property is going to be handled
And every
differently.
event is going to be different. So,
Every piece of property, every.
Every location versus location, population,
A lot of the concerns that have come up are already addressed in other ordinances and regulations.
Right.
agreed. Okay.
Are you satisfied, Chris, that would?
I'm certainly satisfied on the concern on outdoor music because the ordinance has to be an enclosed structure. So we're talking about two different things. And in fact, you may remember last month, we actually had a definition. The proposed definition also had it in the close nearby vicinity. So the art center, it's clear in the definition that the art center can be within an enclosed area or nearby vicinity, but we actually had that exact same language for the cultural music center and took it out for that very same reason.
Sure. Okay.
Because it would conflict with the outdoor music regulations in the county code.
But if they wanted to, if the cultural art, say a facility wanted to have something outdoors, they would have to do it for, not as, I guess,
Special exception.
right,
permit.
or a permit is what you're saying.
An outdoor music festival permit that goes directly to the Board of Supervisors.
Okay.
Yes, as part of the county code, not the land development rate, as a
Okay.
different chapter of the county code, not the land development regulations.
Okay.
Art center, with the way it's written, they can do inside or outside, which makes sense because you could have a lot of, if weather permitting, it could be a lot of stuff outside and give them a lot more room rather than being stuck completely indoors.
Okay.
It's not like it's gonna be noisy.
All right. Sounds like we're all satisfied with that. So we are looking for a motion.
Go ahead, you've been reading all of them.
I make a motion to recommend to the Board of Supervisors that the proposed text amendment to LDR section 302 .00 to be added definition to the Cultural Arts Center and Cultural Music Center to be added to section 603.03-18 and 603.03-18A be allowed a Cultural Arts Center and Cultural Music Center as used by special exemption in the agricultural and general use district A2 district to be added section 603B .03-13 and 603B 5.03-13A to be allowed in the Cultural Art Center and Cultural Music Center use as a use by special exemption in the agricultural transition district, and to add section 605.02-45 and 605.02-46 to be allowed Cultural Art Center and Cultural Music Center as permitted uses in a general business district B-1 be approved.
A second,
I'll second.
all in favor? Aye. Okay, motion passes. Have anything else?
No, ma'am.
Thank-
I said that this was a fairly light agenda where we only had 3 public hearings, which is unusual for us, but I'll take it.
All right.
Exactly.
Very good.
adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you all for your time.
Yeah.
Hey,
Get out of
on that one.
You got it. You